Happy Earth Day to everyone, and welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Wellness Foundation. I'm Jen Taylor, the Executive Director of Education and Programs for Wellness Foundation. And for those of you who are new to us, Wellness Foundation is a nonprofit on the eastern end of Long Island. For the past 15 years, we have been dedicated to empowering people to living their healthiest and happiest lives through the power of plant-based nutrition. We have one of the rock stars of plant-based nutrition tonight, literally the guy who wrote the book on plant-based nutrition that got me started on all of this, Eat to Live. Joel, this is the copy of Eat to Live that you inscribed to my mom several years ago when Dr. Fuhrman literally helped me save my mom's life when she had a very chronic health issue and extended her life for 2 years that we would not have had Joel not been so generous with his time and his knowledge in helping me to help my mom. So that's a cherished possession in our house, my copy of Eat to Live. Dr. Fuhrman, for those of you who don't know him, is a board certified physician, and he is also a 7-time New York Times bestselling author. And his newest book is Eat for Life, right here. If you don't have it, you've got to get a copy. I think, Dr. Fuhrman, you'd agree, if there's one book they could read that you've written, would this be the one?
Yes, because it's the most updated and comprehensive book.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So I want to jump right in and talk to Dr. Fuhrman, especially because we're running late here tonight. So Dr. Fuhrman, I think the thing that's sort of on everybody's mind right now is coronavirus. Obviously, it's a global pandemic. So what are your thoughts about that and what people should be doing and feeling about that right now?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight, and I'm very passionate about getting this information out, which I feel can be life-saving, because we know that coronavirus, COVID-19, doesn't harm and kill the majority of people, only the people with the weakest immunity and poor health. And a matter of fact, a healthy immune system is very resistant, and the virus becomes relatively harmless when we have a normal immune function. So this is a critical time today to save lives. Everybody should be able to get their immune system back to normal again. And so my views are that the danger from a viral infection, any virus, but particularly this virus, is based on the size of the viral load. That means how big of an exposure to the virus. And we're all very aware of trying not to touch our face. We're not wiping our hands on public surfaces. We're keeping our distance. And we're not having people cough. And unless we're a healthcare worker, we're not having people coughing and sneezing generally who have the COVID-19 right in our faces. So it's very, very hard to get a significant viral load. And then, so of course, and then's the virulence of that particular virus. And this is not one of the most highly virulent viruses or as highly contagious as some others, but nevertheless, it still has a high degree of contagion. And the third and most important thing is the resistance of the host. And that means that the health of the body and the health of the immune system. And we have a cancer-prone population. We have a population living on processed foods and animal products with not a significant phytochemical and antioxidant load. And it's the phytochemical and antioxidant load that arms the immune system for its viral defenses and anti-cancer defenses. So I'm saying that this virus can be made almost harmless, and now this more important than ever before, people have to take charge of their health. And being overweight is a major risk factor for coronavirus, or any virus, even pneumonia. You have 7 times the risk of death from pneumonia, for example, if you're overweight. We know that fat cells in the body spew out reactive oxygen species, cytokines and lipokines, and it's the fat on the body that actually makes you pro-inflammatory or enables a cytokine storm that fills the lungs with fluid and causes all the problems with coronavirus. So we're talking here about a nutritarian diet style representing the pinnacle of nutritional excellence, with a full portfolio of those foods with the most documented efficacy to protect against cancer. We should be following it for all along, not waiting till now. But it's the same immune system that protects us against cancer, protects us against danger from viruses. There's multiple lines of defenses that protect against viral replication, infiltration, and proliferation. Because when viruses proliferate rapidly in the tissues, their RNA changes, they can evade capture, they can become more dangerous and damage tissue. So we are protected, and a nutritarian, a person following this portfolio of food to arm the immune system, they're at their ideal weight or they're moving towards their ideal weight. If you're maintaining an overweight condition and staying there, then you're not following the right program or not on a nutritarian program. You either should be at your normal weight or you should be losing weight at approximately 2 pounds a week or a minimum of 1.5 pounds a week. In other words, you have to adjust the nutrient per calorie density of your diet to enable your body to move towards a favorable weight. What I'm saying right now is that the dangers of the fat cells, which spew out inflammatory substances, activate aromatase estrogen, make you insulin resistant, and have, and of course, other negative effects. Those dangers of those fat cells are, those dangers are lessened immediately, not when all the fat is gone, but just when you're losing weight. Like, you take a person who goes through gastric bypass or lap band, and if they're dropping weight, you see their insulin resistance goes down, their estrogen starts to come down. We start to see biochemical improvements even while they're still overweight if they're eating right. And that's what we see here on what I'm observing with patients. We start to repair some of the damaged immune function as they're eating better and losing weight. They don't have to wait till they got all the weight off. They can start this right away and get benefits right away.
That is so true. Dr. Fuhrman, we have a question from Gloria, and I know we're going to get to talking about boosting our immunity with these superfoods, but she has a great question about what you were just talking about. And she said, if someone has clogged arteries and they begin eating a nutritarian diet, how long does it typically take to begin to clear the arteries and to reverse heart disease?
Well, within a few days, your platelets are not sticking together, your triglycerides have gone down. Even within days, your risk of death has decreased dramatically. It's like we see more heart attack deaths around New Year's and Christmas time, and people come back from vacations and cruise ships where they're pigging out at buffets and things. So we know that we can rapidly get into a risky heart condition by eating poorly over a few days. And we can rapidly get in a safer position just by eating healthfully for a few days. When people come out here to our retreat and they're overweight or have heart disease, we see tremendous benefit even in the first 2 weeks. Even in 10 days, we see blood pressure dropping, cholesterol dropping dramatically in 10 days. The platelet aggregate stickiness goes down. So to open up the plaque and to allow more blood flow takes a little more time, but you're getting more, how should I say, nitric oxide, vasodilation, streamlining the flow, so you're getting some improved oxygenation immediately when you start eating this way. But to really open up a blood vessel, it takes time. I had one person who we did a carotid artery ultrasound with IMT measurements, who their 80% obstruction went to 40% in 1 year. And in the second year, we couldn't find any obstruction. It was essentially zero. So it took, but I'm not saying that that represents every case. Some people reverse 10% a year, 20% a year, but this particular case reversed 40% in 1 year's time, which is pretty remarkable.
And how quickly, Dr. Fuhrman, do you typically see your patients who come in with type 2 diabetes? How quickly do you see them able to come off insulin and reversing diabetes with a nutritarian plan?
We're immediately in the first day or two cutting back on medications. It usually takes 6 to 12 weeks to get them off all medications if they're on insulin or different drugs. I'm usually able to stop the sulfonylureas almost immediately and reduce their insulin dose by about half almost immediately. And then over time, we cut back gradually. We keep them on metformin or glucophage longer because it's a less dangerous drug than the other medications, which we wean off faster. Within 6 months, 90% of type 2 diabetics are able to have normal blood sugars and be off all blood sugar lowering medications. So they're essentially non-diabetic because they have normal blood sugars and don't require medication. If they continue to follow the diet and they continue to keep their weight down from following the diet, they will never be diabetic again. Obviously, they have that genetic tendency towards it. If they overeat or start going back to standard American diet again, they will probably get sick again. But what I'm saying right now is that this is the time to start immediately. If you haven't started already, learn this information, start today, because it could be your life. Usually it takes, we're looking at 10, 20, 30 years to die of heart attack or cancer. But now with the coronavirus, your tendency to have heart disease or cancer could be life-threatening in the next month or 2 or 5 or 6. So now's the time to It's just, it makes this, it brings it to the forefront of our awareness of how important it is to know about and to apply nutritional excellence.
Yeah, thank you so much. We see that with our Wellness Challenge folks that go through our 7-week program. It's just amazing. I see a comment right now from Noelle, who's one of our fabulous graduates who just really improved her health so much. And it's been a couple of years and she's still doing terrific. And I think that's what we see, right, with the nutritarian approach is that people thrive for the long term. It's not a short-term solution. It's a way to live that will change your whole life. And I think one of the most beautiful things about it, Joel, is not just that people reverse diabetes and heart disease and things, but what do your patients say about how their quality of life improves? I think so many times people have food addictions and emotional eating and things like that, and they don't even maybe know that they're sort of held prisoner by those things and until they're free from it.
Absolutely. It's, as you know, I have a retreat out in San Diego where I specialize in taking care of people who are overweight and mostly food addicts, and they don't seem to be able to eat healthfully on their own. They need a place where they can have forced abstinence. And with the training they get, the psychological support, the learning how to make this taste great, and the chefs, and the time away from those tempting food triggers, what happens is they all say the fog lifts from the brain. Their taste buds improved. And we show them that eating this way is not just equally enjoyable or less enjoyable, but more enjoyable than eating their former way of eating. So it's amazing what happens over a period of time, but that first step can be a difficult step for most people. And it really helps. Like we don't solve people with alcoholism by giving them alcohol in the evening or tell them to just have the alcohol on the weekends. And what I'm saying right now is the perpetuation of eating white flour and fried foods and sweets makes you desire those foods and makes you into a calorie-consuming monster. It affects your brain function. And when you're a food addict, or any addict, or a drug addict for that matter, you can't be the full human being you could have been. You're not as caring and as feeling. The more you're addicted, the more your self-centered drive to meet your addictive needs overwhelm your life's choices, and you come up with rationalizations and self-delusional excuses, and people can then steal and cheat and rob to get their drugs or their food, or they can in other words, I'm taking it to the extreme with drug addiction, but the same thing to a lesser degree is with food addiction. And that the more you're an addict, the less ability you can be the best parent you can be, the best student you can be, the most giving and feeling for humanity and productive in your work. You just are not as effective as a human being when you're driven by your addictive tendencies to consume things that are not healthy. And when you do that, it affects your ability to concentrate, and your creativity and your ability to think logically are all impaired by improper eating that leads to bad health.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I know in your book you have a great chapter about food addiction and emotional eating and freeing yourself from that. And I think one of the really valuable things that you have to say about it for people who are reading the book is when you say food addiction is sort of not your fault. And can you speak to that a little bit about why you feel that way about the kinds of processed foods we're eating and what that does in the brain? Because I think a lot of people don't realize how it actually affects your brain chemistry.
Right, there's lots of things going on as far as brain chemistry is concerned. One thing is that it has to do with the caloric flux into the bloodstream. We call, quote, fast food, not just the food we get in a fast food restaurant, but processed food and food that you can access and eat fast, and it gets digested fast, and the calories get absorbed into the bloodstream fast. So we're
Mhm.
talking about bagels and pizza and fried foods and sweets whose calories flood the bloodstream very rapidly, and the concentrated calories in the bloodstream have an effect on dopamine receptors in the brain, and you become dopamine insensitive, and now you desire more calories and more food, and you become starting to feel empty and uncomfortable unless you're overly stimulating your brain with excess food. And what I'm saying right now is candy and fast food is the gateway drug to not just alcohol, but opiates and more serious drug use. And there's studies that document that the amount of candy consumption in childhood relates to the rate of people developing into criminals, drug users, drug abusers, and people arrested for violent crimes. Has to do with the candy they're fed in their childhood. But the more you consume fast food, fried food, and sugary foods, the more you're curtailing your brain function, dumbing down your intellect, and of course, making you behave in a way that's not you. You can't be the human you could have become. What I'm saying right now is that over time, we see people who are able to control their health, make a health recovery, while at the same time have more gratitude. They have gratitude for the food. They like the way it tastes now. They appreciate and respect the beautiful nutrients that natural foods supply. And they start to have more care for the natural world, the aesthetic structure and the beauty of nature. Appreciation for not just the people cooking the food, but the people who grew the food and picked the food and made the seeds and supplied the fertilizer. Where they start to think and be connected more to their worldview, and they become more compassionate individuals. And I'm saying that there's a degree here of intellectual, how should I say, change that's necessary for people to overcome their food addictions. Because when they're always concerned about trying to have people approve of them, then they can't be different. They can't eat the way that, in other words, they're going after pleasure by trying to beat other people, compete with them, feel they're better than others, or have other people approve of you. Your true happiness, the deepest level of happiness and emotional fitness, isn't how much people see you, it's how you see them. It's your ability to emote and care for others. It's not how much people are caring for you, it's how much you're caring for them. Your happiness in life is ability. So what I'm saying right now is that when you see the interaction with people as an ability to care for people and your ability to have active goodwill, then you're no longer in conflict with how people see you, or whether the person says, oh, what are you eating carrots and salad for? I'd rather die than if I had to eat that way. I'd rather be dead right now if I had to eat like that, like you're eating. And you're not worried. So in other words, why people fail and why food addicts fail is because they get enthused, they get turned on to maybe making a change, and then they get such a negative reaction from people in their home environment or their social circles that they can't maintain it under the stress. And I'm saying, so what part of the answer is having people to change that emotional focus and purpose. And then they learn, and then they can really enjoy this and realize that it's not only the healthiest way to eat, but it's the most enjoyable way to eat, to enjoy the food, to enjoy your life, and have better emotional health as well. Be happier.
That's kind of a beautiful thing. You get to be healthier and happier.
And happier. Right.
That spills out the ripple effect to everybody that we come in contact with. That's huge.
Right.
We have a question here from Susan. So she's saying, I've eaten plant-based for about a year and am following the nutritarian diet, but want to do even better. I would like to incorporate even more raw veggies, especially cruciferous ones. But since I'm 65, I'm worried my digestive system won't handle it well. Besides leafy greens, which ones would be the healthiest to eat raw, but also not terribly hard to digest?
The easiest ones to eat raw are arugula, watercress, and then microgreens or sprouts. Microgreens are a new thing that is a terrific food. You can get microgreen radishes, broccoli, kale. They're little baby greens, and a little bit goes a long way. But right, she can parboil or take kale or collards and just dip it into water, and for like boiling water for 90 seconds and make it half raw and half cooked, and they can gradually increase the rawness of their diet. However, the main problem people don't digest salad and raw vegetables well is because they don't chew them well enough. So if you focus on eating a salad and put some kale or bok choy or babe arugula or shredded cabbage on your salad, and you really focus on making that each mouthful is completely liquefied before you swallow it, you're not gonna have so much of a problem. It's all about liquefying the food in your mouth. There's no teeth down below in the stomach, and when you break open every cell, every single cell gets broken open. Now you're allowing this biochemical reaction to occur in the mouth, and you're forming these anti-cancer compounds from the mixture of the enzymes in the cell wall with the other chemicals in the center of the cell. So the same thing that's going to try to benefit people's digestion is benefiting their health as well as by chewing very well. And they can put some in a blender if they have to. But of course, the arugula and softer and some of those thinner ones are, like the baby bok choy, is better, so is also easy to digest too.
That's great. Dr. Fuhrman, how do we go about earning super immunity that you talk about in your books? What are the top things that we can be doing and the top foods that we should be eating?
Well, thanks for that question. What I want people to remember is that acronym GBOMBS, GBOMBS, G bombs, which stands for greens, meaning raw cruciferous greens, but all green vegetables. And we should have some cooked greens and some raw greens. I want people to have a salad every day, but I also want them to have a serving of cooked green vegetables every day, like parboiled or woked or lightly steamed, or, we're talking about string beans, broccoli, asparagus, artichokes, bok choy, Savoy cabbage, woked with some mushrooms and snow pea pods. I want them to do both of those things, because green vegetables are the food that shows the most power to fight cancer, the most power to fight heart disease, the most power to fight dementia, and the most powerful protection against COVID-19 is eat your green vegetables. So number one, greens. Number two, B for beans. Number three, O for onions. Then M for mushrooms, B for berries, and S for seeds. What I'm saying right now is that we have an unprecedented opportunity in human history to eat a wide spectrum of immune supporting foods that even the blue zones don't have access to. We could not only live longer than ever before, but we could be the most protected population against infection. But people aren't taking advantage of modern nutritional science. And it starts, of course, with eating a salad every day, and also making a soup with well-cooked beans on the weekend. And then you put the blended cruciferous and the chopped mushrooms and the chopped onion in there. But I want people to eat some raw onion and raw scallion as well. So we're saying two raw foods have the most protection and the most effect on developing a protective microbiome, or the biofilm that covers the villi and the small intestines is thickened with the most favorable forms of gram-positive bacteria that affect immunity when you eat raw greens and raw onion and scallion, and when you eat cooked mushrooms and cooked beans, well-cooked beans. So it's that combination of cooked mushrooms and beans. So that's what make the soups. So lunch should be, make this simple. Lunch should be a big salad with a dressing made from nuts and seeds, not as the fat component, not oil, and a bowl of vegetable bean soup or a chili, and a piece of fruit. Get the full complement of these G-bombs in your lunch.
That's great. That's such an easy acronym to remember. That's great. We have a question, and I apologize if I say your name wrong, from Balint or Balint. Dr. Fuhrman, would adding chlorella to a nutritarian diet be beneficial?
No, chlorella would be useful for somebody on a poor diet. I don't think is an advantage to somebody who's already eating these green vegetables as described. But it's a concentrated food, and there's some the problem with doing that obviously is the concern about contamination of naturally occurring spores and other naturally occurring things that grow on that type of thing that can't be cleaned off very well. So we don't want people to eat a lot of that or try to use that as a means of getting adequate green-based nutrition. They really have to eat food for that.
Perfect. What supplements would be most helpful right now for people to be taking?
Well, we're talking here about a person eating a plant-heavy diet, right? A diet with lots of vegetables and beans and fruit. And we're talking about we want people to eat more plant protein and less animal protein, which means move your diet towards a plant-based or as close to a vegan diet as possible. When you do that, then it's helpful to take some additional nutrients that would have been better absorbed and better contributed to by animal products. Because for example, we don't absorb more than 20% of the zinc that's present in plant foods. We could absorb 60% of the zinc present in animal products, for example. So there's studies that show that as people get older, their ability to absorb zinc goes down, and that eating more plants might even exacerbate that by having us less zinc absorption. So giving people a little extra zinc is most likely beneficial. We already show that studies that people who take zinc as they age have lower risk of developing pneumonia and increased defense against infection. So the main supplemental ingredients I give people who are eating a lot of natural plants as it is, we give them vitamin D, which is the sunshine vitamin, to make sure they're having a level above 30 in their bloodstream. B12, of course, because we don't get a lot of B12 you need more higher consumption of animal products to have optimal amount of B12. So we give extra B12. K2, which is not very accessible in most diets. Iodine, unless you're using seaweed or seafood, and we're not using the iodinated salt. And of course, zinc, and then some EPA and DHA, particularly a DHA dose around EPA plus DHA about 200 to 250 a day, because we have all the studies that track the omega-3 index, the amount of these omega-3 fatty acids that people call fish oil, particularly DHA. So when we track the index on people, all the studies that track these people over time show that they get more cognitive impairment and brain shrinkage as their level of the omega-3 index goes lower, particularly below 5, below 4, below 3. You see a higher percentage of people developing brain shrinkage and propensity to develop dementia in later life. And it also has to do with immune function too. So we're saying here that we're removing, and so we're supplementing conservatively and intelligently. And I'm saying conservatively because we find that using beta carotene, isolated vitamin E, and particularly folic acid can increase the risk of cancer and not be immune favorable. We don't want people to just supplement willy-nilly and to be taking things they don't need and be taking things that could be harmful.
Terrific. And speaking of supplements, I just wanted to mention for anybody who's watching this Facebook Live and also when you see it recorded, we are offering a giveaway tonight. So all you have to do is like Wellness Foundation on Facebook and then go to our website, www.wfeh.org, and enter to sign up for our newsletter and our mailing list. And you'll go into a drawing for a copy of Dr. Fuhrman's brand new book, Eat for Life. And one of Dr. Fuhrman's supplements, which is called Immune Biotech, and also one of Dr. Fuhrman's new supplements, which is a mushroom chai. Can you tell us a little bit about the mushroom chai and the benefits and also the Immune Biotech, Dr. Fuhrman?
They're overlapped. In other words, the immune biotech, the main ingredient is an extract of 10 different mushrooms that help support immune system because we don't really eat a lot, as people don't eat enough different varieties of mushrooms.
Right.
We make the mushroom chai tea, which has the same 10 mushroom blend as the immune biotech supplement. So when we're out of the supplement because with people not, we were out for a while and then people had coronavirus, we couldn't make them, so they're coming back in a week or so. But then we had the mushroom chai tea, so we were telling people the mushroom chai tea tastes great, it makes a great drink, and it has the same 10 mushroom extract that's in the immune biotech supplement. But the immune biotech also has the astragalus, the beta-glucan, a little more beta-glucan, and a little elderberry, and another couple of other, one other little ingredient. So it's probably, but they're both great. But I use both. And I'm particularly using the mushroom chai tea now. I don't have any biotechs left, but it's coming back soon.
Yeah, it's delicious. The mushroom chai is getting reviews from my friends.
Yeah, it's great. It's great tasting. It's a little supplemental. It's good for your health, and it's a great tasting tea too.
Yeah, perfect. We have a question from Elisa. What are your thoughts about dietary fats? And I know from reading your book that you do have thoughts on this. There are mixed feelings in the plant-based community, and she's read that low-fat diets can affect female hormones, while others claim that diets higher in fats, even plant-based, increase your cholesterol. I know you have a lot of feelings about going too low-fat with the vegetarian diet. Can you talk about that?
Yes, even though there's some controversy among individuals, I don't think there's any controversy among nutritional scientists and among the research community or the research that's come out in the last decade. What I'm saying right now is you have people that want to propose and promote the way they've been telling people to eat, and they try to justify their proclamations on diet, but it's not based on science. In other words, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence today to show that diets, when you take nuts and seeds out of a diet and try to make a diet too low in fat, you increase all-cause mortality, and that means death. We do need some of these beneficial facts. When you narrow a diet down to a smaller, narrow collection of foods, you don't have the advantage of living as long. Even the blue zones, for example. We know, for example, the WHEEL study, the Women's Healthy Eating and Living study, even though vegetables showed the most protection, women that ate fruits and vegetables had less cancer than women who just eat vegetables. In the blue zones, for example, we saw that beans are protected, but as they eat different foods, the more variety of foods, we see those individuals do better. And the nutritarian diet is designed to have a wide variety of plant foods. And taking the nuts and seeds out of the diet with some idea that it's better to be lower in fat, increases risk of all causes of death, including cancer death, heart attack death, cardiovascular death, and all-cause mortality, and infectious death, which is what I'm saying right now. So in other words, in the Prevamed study, for example, they gave them an olive oil bottle to take home with them. So they probably ate less butter, maybe ate less white bread, whatever they did, heart attack rates went down by approximately 15%. But when they told them to not use the oil, to instead use nuts and seeds, then we saw heart attack rates drop precipitously. But all the major long-term epidemiologic studies that follow people for decades and look at hard endpoints show that the inclusion of a daily serving of nuts and seeds overall generally reduces cardiovascular death by about 40%. 29, by about 30%. Huge amount of 30%, huge reduction in cardiovascular death. There's no even food or modification to a diet. And the most amazing thing is that reduction in cardiovascular death and overall mortality is held up to be consistent amount of death reduction in all these different studies that have a high credence value. And we could look at a short-term controlled trial to have a hypothesis, because what people do short-term, we give people a diet of, let's say, Twinkies, and they lose weight because they don't eat many calories. We give them a white rice diet, and they may lose weight, or their blood pressure may drop. But followed over the years, those people won't do very well because their diet's deficient in nutrients. What I'm saying right now is that can give you a hypothesis, but the hypothesis only has credence is when the long-term studies show the same thing, or the hard endpoint studies show the same thing as the short-term soft endpoint studies. And of course, we see that, of course, that it makes the diet, we absorb nutrients better, and we have better heart stability and cancer protection when we use some degree of a healthy fat from a whole food like nuts and seeds in the diet, and we don't exclude those healthy fats.
Thank you. Sort of along those same lines, Dr. Fuhrman, Elizabeth wants to know why a ketogenic diet isn't safe when it does help people lose weight. Can you explain that?
Well, yeah, you can snort cocaine and smoke cigarettes to lose weight too. The fact that a lot of things help people lose weight do not describe or identify diets that are safe or healthy. Being in ketosis long term keeps you in a chronic acidotic state, which decrease the risk of certain cancers and increase the risk of other cancers. We know fruit exclusion alone is a higher risk factor for cancer, but a ketogenic diet, we've looked at those diets long term and with hard endpoints, people who are fruit exclusion, for example, are trying to stay. The two things here. One is, as you increase animal products higher in the diet, which most ketogenic diets are higher in animal products, they inevitably increase risk of death. And we just talked about excluding phytochemicals and antioxidants, particularly berries and other fruits, to try to stay in ketosis, also is going to increase cause of death. And being in chronic acidosis is going to increase risk of kidney disease, bone marrow, bone loss, and immune system dysfunction over time. We have to look at long-term studies, and there's too much data to suggest there's too much risk associated with the most common types of ketogenic diets. Even a vegan or a plant-based ketogenic diet is not the healthiest way to live. It may be someday in the future determined that a certain type of cancer, like a brain cancer, may be shown to do better with a ketogenic diet, but that's something that we haven't identified yet with science.
Thank you. I think for a lot of people, what you're saying just makes good sense. I mean, eating real food is going to be the best bet. What can somebody expect if they were to switch from, a standard American diet over to a plant-based nutritarian diet and stick to that about 90% of the time? What kind of benefits can they expect?
Well, thanks for that, because it reminds me to tell them that when they switch over, they could feel worse, not better. Because in the initial week or two, mostly the first week, usually not the second week, but the first week they can generally have increased fatigue or mild headaches or a little feeling of, of discomfort, because they're going to detox or withdraw from their poisonous diet they've been eating before that. The worse they were eating prior to switching over, the more symptoms that may manifest itself, which are called withdrawal. People get symptoms when they try to stop smoking and they try to stop, eat cocaine, they're going to get symptoms, but the milder symptoms when you try to stop eating bad. But just remember, fatigue is not hunger, and don't eat for energy and to stimulate yourself. Just eat the 3 meals a day, follow the program, and give yourself a chance to get well over time. So what they can expect is, if they're doing this properly, they should see they losing weight at least 2 pounds per week. But the first 3 or 4 weeks on the program, they should be losing at least 3 pounds a week if they're significantly overweight, because you're losing more water weight the first week too, as the body holds on to a lot of water to diffuse the toxicity of its tissues. What I'm saying right now, the first month may be a 15-pound weight loss or more, because a toxic person holds on to a lot of fluid, is bloated with extra fluid to dilute the toxicity or acidity of their tissues. And once they get rid of that, they might be down to now losing about 2 pounds a week, about 8 pounds a month, not 15 pounds a month. So what they can expect is about that 25 pounds they can drop about 25 pounds in the first 10 weeks of the program.
That's fabulous. And I mean, to lose that kind of weight, but also that you're preventing and reversing disease, there's just nothing else that gives you that much bang for your buck, I don't think. Dr. Fuhrman,
people have to understand that you don't have to get cancer, that we have an unprecedented opportunity in human history not to win the war on cancer right now. And eating to not die of coronavirus is the way we eat to not get cancer. And so it's the same diet that prevents cancer, protects against this COVID-19. So it's crazy not to eat this way. And a nutritarian diet identifies those foods with the most cancer protection, and we make them taste great. It's called a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is the heart of what our Wellness Challenge 360 is about. Is, you've been on our advisory council from the beginning, and which reminds me, I have a message for you from Doug and Pat Mercer from East Hampton. Doug is the founder of Wellness Foundation, and he just wanted me to say, Doug and Pat here, Joel, we thank you for becoming Wellness Foundation's first advisory council member years ago and paving the way for the foundation's success. We congratulate you on your efforts to build health and wellness across America.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, Doug and Pat are dear friends, love them so much, and not only for the work they have done, that too, but also for being such wonderful, caring individuals with so much goodwill for humanity.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing people. We're very fortunate to know them and call them friends. Daniela has a question for you, Dr. Fuhrman. Will elderberry syrup help increase the immune system?
It's a berry, and all berries are good, and elderberry has been shown to have some benefits like that. But I still want to de-emphasize the magical supplemental immune system builders and overemphasize the right diet to build immunity, because even one serving of French fries a week, or just 2 servings of something like pizza or donuts or a bagel a week, can suppress your immunity. The studies show that, for example, 1 serving of commercial French fries a week increased risk of breast cancer by 26%. And even being moderately overweight, if you're not going to be eating healthy, can increase your risk of developing a life-threatening pneumonia by 7-fold. That's 700%. So I'm saying is, yes, you could do these little things that might help a touch, but let's focus on the diet style, eating right, and not eating the fast food, the junk food, the fried food, and the sweets, and really filling up your plate with the healthy food right now if you want to be really protected, and don't think just the elderberry syrup while you continue to eat bagels and pizza is going to do it for you, because it's not.
Yeah. Dr. Fuhrman, I know we started late because of our little glitch. Are you okay to take questions for a few more minutes?
Sure, I'm okay. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So my friend Drew has a question for you. Hey, Drew, can you eat too much fruit?
Yes, because if your diet is fruitarian or too much fruit, it's going to be too low in protein. Fruit is the only plant food that's low in protein. Quinoa is high in protein. Even grains have more protein than fruit. Nuts and seeds are high in protein. Green vegetables are high in protein. And of course, nuts and seeds are high in protein, and beans are very high in protein. What I'm saying right now is that the long-term studies, particularly Adventist Health Study 2 and Adventist Health Study 1, which are so critical in the science of human nutrition, is because they've studied people eating vegan, near vegan, pescatarian, lower animal products, more animal products, and able to compare different diets and different types among Americans eating diets with a little bit of differences in them, and see the outcome. And what they showed was, as people ate more animal protein in their diet, they had earlier death, and as they ate more plant protein, they had decreased risk of death. That means eating a rice-based diet or a potato-based diet as we age, when protein bioavailability goes down, can be a risk factor. We're talking here about eating more high-protein plant foods, eating a variety, which does help. When you eat nutritional variety, you get more protein bioavailability and assimilation and utilization. Your IGF-1 stays at a better level. Too much animal products drives IGF-1 too low, and the eating more high-protein plant foods like hemp seeds and like edamame and tempeh and soybeans and other beans and like, quinoa and broccoli, and that when you eat more high-protein plant foods, you live longer. So we're advising people to eat a protein-adequate vegan diet, not a protein-poor vegan diet. When you're younger, people can get away with eating an all-fruit diet. But as you get older, they're going to get emaciated. They're going to have muscle wasting. They're going to lose their teeth more. They're going to not be at more risk of immune infection. So I know some people can thrive on like a fruitarian diet when they're young, but I've seen it over the decades of my practice. These people are not thriving when they have too much fruit in their diet in the later years, because it's better to have the full assortment of foods we're talking about and to eat the beans and the greens and the quinoa and the vegetables and the seeds and the fruit, and eat the different whole variety of these foods in your diet.
For somebody, along the lines of that question, because I think a lot of people became afraid of fruit with the whole, low carb kind of phase. Can you tell us, Dr. Fuhrman, what would a good average day look like for you or a nutritarian? What would we be eating from breakfast until we go to bed at night?
I don't want people to eat till they go to bed at night. I want them to stop eating at least 4 hours before bedtime.
I knew it as soon as it came out. You were going to
It came out of your mouth. Boom.
stop it.
Gotcha on that one. All right. But anyway, yeah, we talk. So I don't mind people having a piece of fruit or two pieces of fruit with the meal, but it's still a vegetable-based meal, and I want their lunch and dinner to be vegetable-based. So it might be a salad and a bean dish, or a salad and a soup and a piece of fruit for dessert, or two pieces of fruit for dessert I had today, but I had a big salad. But anyway, I had beans on the salad, I had seeds in the salad, and I had two pieces of fruit for dessert. And then dinner, I had a squash dish with a string bean mushroom dish. I usually have some woked, greens, snow pea pods, water chestnuts, bamboo shoots, or Savoy cabbage and mushrooms with a Thai, a Thai curry sauce or something, whatever it is. And so I could have my green vegetable, a cooked vegetable dish with my dinner, and maybe I'll have a fruit-based dessert or a frozen fruit dessert. Maybe have last night I had some whipped frozen banana with some real vanilla bean powder and 3 macadamia nuts and made an incredible vanilla ice cream. Tonight I'm just having some frozen cherries taken out of a bag and put in, or partially defrosted, makes a fantastic dessert. So I'm not saying not to eat fruit or you have to worry about it. I'm just saying the main meal isn't a whole fruit-based meal. It's still we're getting an assortment of plant foods in the meal. And for breakfast, I might have a little bit of grain, like a little bit of quinoa or steel cut oats, because I don't want to take too much of that, because I want to have room for a tablespoon of flax seeds or chia seeds and my cup of berries or my kumquats or my loquats or some other delicious fruit. So breakfast might have bigger portions of fruit with a little bit of seeds or maybe almond hemp milk or maybe a little bit of oats or quinoa, mixed in. So I may have a little more grain and fruit and seed for breakfast, and more salad and bean soup for lunch, and maybe cooked vegetable dinner for dinner with a fruit or frozen fruit-based dessert.
Great. Gloria and Kristen want to know what what your feelings are about intermittent fasting. And I know you addressed that in the book a little bit.
Right, and we addressed it here a little bit about saying not eating close to bedtime. That
Right.
the most important thing to remember about intermittent fasting, it does extend lifespan and increase immune system defenses against cancer. And it's going to benefit your immune system if you do that. And what we mean is stack your calories early in the day, eat breakfast, or eat a little later breakfast and a later lunch, eat 2 meals a day, or eat 3 meals a day, where you eat breakfast, lunch, and an earlier dinner, but don't eat a heavy dinner and don't eat a late dinner. In other words, make dinner be the smaller, earlier meal. Here at my retreat in San Diego, we feed people dinner at 5 o'clock. So most people are finished eating by 5:30 p.m. And then we might have a lecture or a show or some kind of watching something on television or some games they're playing. What I'm advising people to do is eat an earlier and lighter dinner, and then clean the kitchen, and clean, floss or water pick, clean your teeth, close up the kitchen and get out and do other things. Don't eat between 6 and 10 o'clock at night. I even some nights, even when I'm doing my detoxes or I'm running my programs, I sometimes feel a little hungry right when I go to bed at night. I almost feel like I want to eat at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night because my dinner was a little lighter and early, but I just have a sip of water and go to sleep. In other words, don't go to sleep on a heavy stomach. That's the most important thing to recommend, to remember about intermittent fasting. The most benefits of intermittent fasting occur when people stop eating late at night. So we're talking about having that 13 to 15-hour window between the end of dinner and the start of breakfast, but don't increase that window by eating a late dinner and then skipping breakfast. Increase the window by eating an earlier dinner and having that 5 hours before you go to bed at night, and then having breakfast at a more reasonable time. So don't have your calories earlier in the day.
Perfect. I have more questions for you, but I want to address a question Kim has asked, which is, what is Wellness Foundation? So, Kim, we are a nonprofit on the eastern end of Long Island, and we have programs that are centered around the 4 pillars of wellness, which are plant-based nutrition, physical exercise, stress management, and social connection. You can go to our website, wfeh.org, and click on resources. We have lots of resources there for you, lots of recipes that fit into Dr. Fuhrman's Nutritarian plan. So please do check out our website. And we have a question here about exercise, Dr. Fuhrman. What role should exercise play along with a healthy diet?
Well, if you're eating healthfully, you feel like being active. You feel like doing things for enjoyment and doing things physical. So exercise is important, but it's anywhere near on the level of diet as far as the ability to extend human lifespan. What I'm saying right now is so many overweight and sickly people can't do much exercise. They have very poor exercise capacity. And they shouldn't focus on the exercise component as being the avenue of losing weight. We say we gain weight in the gym, and we lose weight in the kitchen. So you can't, and too many people try to utilize exercise as a means of increasing their calories burned so they can eat more unhealthfully or still consume excess calories. So I want people to be fit, and I want them to have good musculature as they age, but I want them to feel like exercising, and eating healthfully, of course, is the means at which people will feel like exercising and keep themselves active as they age.
Great. Larry wants to know, is a big breakfast a good thing?
Well, a big anything isn't a good thing. You shouldn't be eating till you're full or stuffed. You should only be eating till you're comfortable, and you should leave the table before you feel uncomfortable, before you feel full. And how you know you didn't eat, how do you know if you eat the right amount of food at breakfast, not too much and not too little? And the answer is, you're hungry for lunch. If you're not really hungry for lunch, you overate at breakfast. If you're not really hungry for dinner, you're overrated at lunchtime. We want you to be in touch with true hunger, so we want you to err on the side of undereating just a touch to make sure you really feel you need to eat that next meal, that you didn't so we're in a society, and it's more conventional to overeat at every meal, and you've lost touch with the amount of food that's the right amount of food for humans. And we can tell that because most people, their BMI is too high, they weigh too much. And so what I'm saying, we use 2 methods. One is we use hunger. We want you to feel hungry before you eat. We want you not to feel full with eating. And if you're overweight, we want you not to eat so much that you're not losing weight. We want you losing weight every couple of days. You should be dropping a pound every 3 days. And if you're not, you're chronically overeating, if you're overweight.
Dr. Fuhrman, to go along with that, can you explain for our viewers what the difference is between toxic and true hunger? You address that in all of your books.
That's correct, because toxic hunger is feeling fatigued and shaky and weak and headachy and stomach crampy because you are detoxing from the poisons in your body from a bad diet and your nutritional deficiencies and antioxidant and phytonutrient deficiencies cause the elevated amount of free radicals, reactive oxygen species, and advanced glycation end products, which make you feel wiped when you're not in the digestive process, when you're not digesting food anymore. So people think that hypoglycemic, that feeling of wasted and the feeling of feeling lightheaded and headachy and weak and craving food, they think it's hunger. And that's withdrawal because they're withdrawing or detoxifying when they're not eating food and not digesting food. Because when you're not digesting is when your body is healing and detoxifying most effectively. It takes a few months of eating right for people to feel real hunger, which is felt in the neck and throat. And that's our driver that directs us the exact right amount of calories to consume if people can eat healthy enough to get in touch with true hunger. And I'm saying that a nutritarian diet explains why people has failed on diets in the past, because they willy-nilly try to reduce calories without focusing on the nutritional quality of what they're eating. And only when you focus on the nutritional quality of what you're eating can you get rid of that calorie-consuming monster driving you to overconsume calories.
And I think one thing that is surprising to people when they start a plant-based diet is the foods that maybe originally they think, oh, I can't eat that. I can't do kale. I can't do all those things. Once you clear that toxic junk out of your system, your cells begin to crave those nutrients. And so those foods that you maybe thought I can't eat that, you're actually going to start to crave it. Don't you see that with your patients?
Well, I definitely see their taste for that really enhances, and for sure. And when you get really healthy enough, if you ever did or you do eat something unhealthy, you become more reactive and more uncomfortable when you try to do that. The food doesn't taste that good. It's too sweet. It's too salty. It's too greasy. You don't even like eating unhealthy food. But then it makes you feel so sick. Your body becomes more sensitized. You enjoy and you feel better when you eat this way, and it becomes the way you prefer to eat for your own comfort, your own happiness, and your own enjoyment. I much prefer to have my mango coconut ice cream than a standard ice cream with all that sugar in it. I can taste the bleach in it and the chemicals. I much prefer to have my, wok dish with a level of nutrients and the sauces versus a commercial version, which is so overly salted you can't even taste any of the subtle flavors because the salt component was so high in the dish. So yeah, we much prefer to we prefer eating this way because your taste buds acclimate to it as well over time as well.
So just one more question for you, Dr. Fuhrman. Actually, I have two quick questions, but one is for families that are really living on a budget right now, and we're getting this question a lot. What are some of the foods that people can be eating that would be economical, be best for their body, where they're going to get the most bang for their buck, but also to make it affordable for families that are struggling right now financially?
Well, number one, dried beans that you soak in water and rehydrate and cook into a soup are inexpensive.
Hmm.
And they're cheaper than canned beans. And
Hmm.
you can buy a big bag of all. So we're talking here about a bag of dried soybeans, adzuki beans, red kidney beans, chickpeas, and make dishes from them. That's number one. Number two, there are certain grains that in whole form are very nutritious and are inexpensive, but we're talking about not using flour, but use the whole wheat berry cooked in water, or use obviously quinoa is my favorite, kamut, teft, and there's other grains, but quinoa is my favorite grain because it's higher in protein and more nutritious, generally speaking. So using some of the, and then when we buy certain berries are too expensive, and some of those fruits are too expensive. But if you buy the big pack of frozen, the big economical pack of frozen, you keep it in the freezer and take a little out and put it back in the freezer. You buy those frozen berries at 1/3 the price of fresh, and they can certain frozen fruits they can get much cheaper than fresh in most cases. And they can buy, of course, food in certain markets. They can get green vegetables less expensive too. Not just the farmers markets, but as we used to go to Hunts Point markets. We used to put families together, and we used to go to Hunts Point, or I'm saying Hunts Point because we lived in Tarrytown, and we went down to the Bronx, and we'd buy food by the case, where the food would come in off the docks into these big markets where restaurants and supermarkets would get them from, and we'd split them up among families to make them less expensive for people. And certainly growing some of your own food, whether it's microgreens and sprouting in your own house, can lower your food, can increase give you more variety of the money you have to spend on food, and increase the nutritional concentration, nutritional quality of your diet. So, but beans are is the way to go for your protein and make your diet a little bean heavy to make it less expensive.
Perfect. Thank you. So I have one last question for you, but before we get to that, I just want to tie up a few loose ends. So remember, everybody, if you like us on Facebook, go to our website and for our list to be entered into a giveaway for Dr. Furman's new book, Eat for Life, and an immunity bundle from him. That would be terrific. And I hope you'll join me next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And my guest will be Kathy Freston, who is a New York Times bestselling author as well. And we're going to be talking about how to thrive during this time and just stay balanced and to raise our consciousness around our health and how we treat animals and the planet. So I hope you'll join me next week. And my last question for you, Dr. Fuhrman, is why are you so passionate about this? Because from the day I met you many, many years ago, I've never met anybody who gets more excited talking about this stuff. Like, you just light up when you see the smile, you guys. That's what he's like in real life. When you meet Dr. Fuhrman, he gets so excited about this. And I've never met anybody who gets more excited to see his patients be successful. I've been there when you've seen, somebody's numbers looking terrible, and then when you see them really thriving, and it just lights you up. I want you to talk about why you're so passionate about this.
It's very rewarding, and that's why I wanted to be a physician specializing in nutrition, to watch people get well. And some of the dearest and most treasured memories and moments were people who've been on the national renal transplant list waiting for a new kidney, with lupus who got well, and people with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis who make recoveries, and people with congestive heart failure who told they're going to be dead in a couple of years and now thriving, 10 years, a decade later. So we're talking about I think that it's touching, and it really moves me to watch people change their life. And I've had people say, I'll eat sawdust if you get rid of my rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm showing them how they can get well again. So nutritional excellence is not just make you live longer, it is therapeutically more effective to reverse disease. It's efficacious to enable people to make full recoveries, and that's very, very exciting to me, and always has been. So we're talking here about, when I present a show on PBS television or in my book, I tell these people these case histories of people who've turned their life around. And getting to know some of those people has been wonderful too, because those people whose life have been turned around, they've become so enthusiasm and so much happier, and we can see their new attitude about life, and they've become like superpowered. They're able to help other people and help spread the word and benefit others. So I'm watching people who've turned their life around be able to become that superhero who's helping other people. I'm seeing the light across my face. You can see the bottom of my face, but not the top of it, because I got to bend down to get the sun back in there.
That we kept you longer than we were supposed to, because we had that crazy technical glitch. So thank you for hanging in there with us. Yeah. And everybody, please do go get Dr. Fuhrman's new book, Eat for Life. I will tell you, I had trouble ordering it on Amazon. It was a little glitchy. I think everything's a little glitchy these days.
It's crazy.
So it'll tell you that the book is not being released until March of 2021. That's not true. The book is out, and it is available at Barnes & Noble. So you can get it at Barnes & Noble right now. You can, order it and have it delivered. And a lot of Barnes & Nobles are doing curbside pickup. So you can order it online and then go pick it up. So if you can't wait to read his book, so do go get a copy of it, because I think it's probably my favorite of all the books you've read written, because it just kind of puts everything from all your previous books is there. And so
I'm so glad you read it already. That's great.
Well, you sent me the galley a long time ago, okay. And then I had to have a hard copy for my collection. So I've got every Dr. Fuhrman book, all the way back to the first fasting book that I think was 1995. So
I'm standing up to get out of the sun shining in my eyes there. So
perfect.
But anyway.
Well, thank you, Dr. Fuhrman, and do go out and get his book. It's got lots of great info and lots of great recipes that we're going to be trying at our house. And if you need some recipes, when you sign up for our mailing list on our website on WFEH.org, you will get a free copy of our Thrive in 5 guide, which is a 5-day meal plan to get you jump starting into a plant-based lifestyle. So check it out, and we'll hopefully get to talk to you again soon, Dr. Fuhrman. Thank you so much for being such a good friend to the foundation.
Thank you. Stay in good health, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Good night.